So, the official Daredevil Born Again trailer was finally released today. My last video, I got so impatient that I just made a video breaking down the leaked trailer cause Born Again comes out in less than 2 months and we hadn't even gotten an official trailer. After almost 7 years, we're finally getting a continuation to the Netflix Daredevil, and a lot of people have lost their faith in the MCU, so this trailer had a lot to prove. So, how was the trailer? Well, let's get into it. But before I get into it, if you guys enjoyed today's video, please remember to leave a like and subscribe. So the trailer weirdly had me kinda mixed, because on one hand it looks absolutely amazing, brutal, faithful, and I'm still really happy that we get to be back in this world with the same characters we all know and love. On the other hand, I am still kinda scarred from the past MCU shows, massively disappointing me, like Moon Knight, Hawkeye, Ms. Marvel, we don't talk about She-Hulk, and so many more. And it is just a trailer, so I'll give it some grace, but I can't help but notice how much flatter some of the shots look, especially in comparison to the Netflix Daredevil. I'm not entirely sure if it's the cinematography or more of the color grading, but some of the visuals in this trailer really come across as cheap to me. But I don't want to come across as too negative because I do really like this trailer, so I'll save this for a little bit later, but I do want to get into breaking down this trailer. So the trailer starts out immediately with Daredevil beating up Machuw, and we cut to the diner scene where Fisk and Matt are talking to each other about Fisk's mayoral campaign. Matt is rightfully doubtful that Fisk has good intentions, and he most definitely does not have good intentions, I mean, come on. And I like this meta line that I throw in here where Fisk says it's not entirely unpleasant to see you again, kinda referring to how long it's been since we've seen Daredevil back on the small screen, and how it's really nice to just see these characters again. We then get our first glimpse of Nelson, Murdock, and Paige again, where the three of them are walking, laughing, and having a good time together. Surely nothing bad will happen after this, right? But it is just so good seeing the three of them together again. It really has been too long. I don't think I can mentally take it if they finally bring all of them back together just to kill one of them off. Like, please, there will not be enough therapy in the world to make me recover if we see Foggy die in the first episode after not having seen him for like 7 years. One cool theory I saw floating around is that Foggy gets put into some sort of coma, and then Matt makes a deal with Fisk to help him out with his mayoral campaign, while Fisk basically helps keep Foggy alive. I think it would be a cool moral dilemma of Matt to have to, basically make a deal with the devil in order to save his best friend, so we'll see. But either way, we do know that Foggy won't be in the majority of season 1 because both he and Karen were originally not going to be in the show at all in the first place. And Marvel is keeping about 6 episodes of the old Daredevil show in here, so they basically will have to write something in that will not have Foggy or Karen in the majority of the show, but again, hopefully that doesn't mean that they die. Next, we see Fisk campaigning in Times Square, and we get some fun Easter eggs. The first one being the Steve Rogers musical, and we saw this 4 years ago in Hawkeye. Can they stop showing this musical, bro? How long is this gonna be on for? And we get a Harlem Easter egg, which will hopefully lead to Luke Cage coming back to the MCU as well. Next, we see our first glimpse of the artwork that Machuw, the main villain of season 1, has done of Wilson Fisk. So it seems that they might go down this route where Machuw sort of idolizes Wilson Fisk as he did in the comics. Matt and Fisk continue their conversation where Fisk says, "How come you're not being a vigilante anymore?" Which first supports the leak that in the original show, Daredevil wouldn't have even put on his vigilante costume till episode 4 or something, and he would mainly be a lawyer. But Matt tells Fisk that a line was crossed, which could mean a lot of different things. First is that someone else crossed a line, like maybe Bullseye killed Foggy or put him in a coma, which was just too much for Matt to bear and led him to stop being Daredevil. Or the other option, which I think is more likely in my opinion, is that Matt himself crossed a line and he stops being Daredevil. Perhaps he went too far with a criminal, or maybe he even kills Bullseye. Hopefully that doesn't happen because Bullseye is one of the more iconic Daredevil villains, and I think he could use a lot more depth in stories, but we'll see. Regardless, I think Matt did something he really regrets and tossed his Daredevil helmet off of a building, which we see here. And I also like his Easter egg where the horn on the right side of the helmet is torn off and the light glistens on this area that kinda resembles a D. Then we get our first few glimpses of White Tiger beating up some guys in a subway station, where he's probably just trying to help out and beat up some thugs. We learn later that Matt will be his lawyer and help him out too, which I think will be pretty cool because they're both vigilantes. We also get a good look at him suiting up in his home, and I really do like the look of the suit. We also see this cross behind him indicating that he will most likely be portrayed as Catholic in the show, so that'll be a cool commonality shared by him and Matt. And speaking of that, I do hope that Matt's religion isn't toned down. It was a major part of the original series, so I hope that they're not afraid to go too deep into that. Only reason I'm concerned is we never see Matt in a church in these scenes or in the trailers, and Marvel hasn't ever gone deep into religion on screen before, so we'll just have to see. I'm also hoping that Matt's mom from season 3 makes a return. I was hoping she would come come back as a series regular to sort of fill in that void that Father Lantom left, but it looks like she's probably not coming back, which is kinda disappointing. Then we see this group of armed men in ski masks enter a building, which takes place during St. Patrick's Day, by the way, so that's something. But this might be a courthouse because we do see Matt in his regular lawyer fit there, where one of them aims a shotgun at Matt's head. But classic Matt, there is no fear in those eyes. The next major thing we see is Matt's next love interest, Heather Glenn. It's pretty unclear what her role is going to be in the show, but given how all of Matt's other love interests have gone, I'm assuming it's not really going to work out with them. But damn, not even Disney Plus is enough to stop Matt from being the man whore that he is. Good for him. We also see our first close-up shot of Muse in HD, and damn, he looks absolutely perfect. So mysterious, terrifying, and very comic accurate. I think it's still unconfirmed who's playing him, so I am really excited to learn more. Next, we see Isla Zerur as Vanessa, who originally was going to be recast, but thankfully due to the show rework, she's back. We see Vanessa and Fisk sharing a dinner in front of the iconic Rabbit in a Snowstorm painting that caused them to fall in love in the first place. In the background, we do see the blood splatter from when Matt beat the ever-living heck out of him, so that's just a cool continuity detail that reminds me how grateful I am that they're just doing a continuation and that everything from Netflix is canon. The next major thing we get is our first look at Jon Bernthal's Frank Castle, and if I do say so myself, he's really rocking that beard and new hairstyle. But it looks like he's been in hiding or has just been going through it lately, and he even attacks Matt in this scene. I'm really interested to see where they take his character and how much he'll actually be in the show, but nonetheless, I'm really glad that he's back. We also get our first look at Michael Gandolfini, who is playing Daniel Blade. Daniel is basically the director of communications for Fisk's mayoral campaign, and some people are theorizing that he's Fisk's illegitimate son, but in all honesty, no one really knows. Next, we see these dead bodies hung up in what's presumably Muse's lair, which I'm really interested to see how they'll adapt. Muse is known for being extremely graphic because he makes art out of the literal blood and dead bodies of his victims, so we'll see how that goes, but so far, the brutality seems to be there. Speaking of brutality, we see Matt has put on one of the ski masks to blend in with the criminals to beat them up or interrogate them or something. And I don't know what this guy did to deserve this, but Matt slams his head into broken glass and does this ninja jump into breaking this guy's leg. Next, we see Matt's little hideout area where we see 5 other Daredevil helmets, one of them being the yellow one that we saw him wear in She-Hulk. I like that these are all here because it helps flesh out the world a bit more and shows that Matt has been up to a lot during the years that we haven't seen him. And hopefully Melvin made them instead of the guy from She-Hulk, because I don't really want to deal with that guy again. Lastly, we see this contrasted fight between Matt and Muse, and Matt and this random guy in his apartment, both paralleling his raw, primal, and animalistic rage as he brutally beats them up and screams fairly. Like, do you see his eyes bobbing out like that? Whatever happens at the start of the season must leave him absolutely pissed, and he's not holding back at all. We even get this really brutal shot of this guy's bone popping out. It seems like they really might not hold back this time, but I am still a little bit weary. So that's the end of the trailer. I also want to comment on how I do like the revamped score, where it's basically the main theme but an organ. It goes pretty hard. It's being scored by the Newton brothers who did X-Men 97, so I'm sure it will be good. Now for everyone's least favorite part. I do want to get into some stuff that I'm a little weary of and that I straight up do not like. The first thing that I mentioned before is that the visuals are not quite there, especially when we're trying to hold it to the standard of the Netflix series. Obviously this is cherry picking, but I still think this will still kinda get the point across, but take a look at this diner shot with Matt and Fisk, and then this one with Matt and Elektra. Or just look at these random shots I took from the trailer and from Daredevil Season 3. There's definitely a stark difference. Like, for some reason it just looks so washed out, and again, I'm not sure if this is a lighting issue, a color grading issue, or what, but the difference is kinda blatant. And it's not like all the shots look like this. We do get some pretty good looking stuff that looks like it would belong on the original series, but again, this is still worthy of criticism, I think, because we all want this show to be as great as it can be. It just wasn't something I was expecting because the new directors of the show, Benson and Moorhead, directed Loki Season 2, which is visually the best thing that Marvel has done in a long time. Not only that, Loki Season 2 is one of my favorite projects since Endgame, because it was genuinely that good. I've also watched a couple of their movies like Synchronic, which is a time-traveling crime thriller that aesthetically matches Daredevil's gritty visuals, so I was pretty surprised it looked like this. I know that part of it is because 6 episodes of the 9-episode series is being kept, which was created by guys that did cable procedural dramas, which is why some stuff looks really off, especially these shots in Times Square, which just looks so flat. And it's also weird because Moon Knight or even the episode episode Matt was in for She-Hulk looked much better visually, so I don't know what's going on here. My biggest fear is that there's going to be a huge story and tonal clash with the new creatives versus the procedural story they had. The last thing I want is for Daredevil to feel like Justice League, which was two wildly different directors' visions on a project sandwiched together to try and make something coherent. We'll see though, but what I'm going to try and do is not hold this new project to the standard of Netflix Daredevil all the time and give it a chance to impress me, but that will undoubtedly be kind of difficult. With all that being said, this show needs to be great. Kind of similar to how James Gunn's Superman needs to be great this year, although Daredevil is obviously not in as dire of a situation as that. If Daredevil and Wolverine wasn't such a huge success, then I might say differently, but the reason why this show needs to be great is, number one, Marvel isn't in such a great place even with Deadpool 3, so it definitely needs another win, and two, there's a lot of expectations with this. This isn't a scenario where if Disney makes another mediocre TV show, people can just shrug their shoulders, move on, and never hear about it again like Echo. I spent some time looking at reaction videos on YouTube, and I was kinda surprised for some reason how all these people hold this show in such high regard. Like, obviously I hold it in high regard, and I know a lot of you do as well, but we're kind of like the diehard Daredevil audience, so I didn't really take into account that a lot of general audiences did watch the show and still think of it extremely fondly. Cause yeah, it's been 7 years, so I would have thought the hype may not quite be there, but I think I was vastly underestimating this. It's even the most anticipated series on IMDb, so it's definitely really hyped. If Daredevil Born Again isn't great, it's gonna be a heavier hit to Marvel because this Daredevil audience is already used to seeing a show that was fantastic and is regarded as some of the best live-action Marvel media ever made. The already poor reputation that Marvel has accumulated will sink even further, which is the last thing Marvel needs right now, so no pressure. But those are all my thoughts, but I want to know what you guys think. Let me know all your thoughts in the comments down below, and with all that being said, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Peace.